Om Lokaha Samastaha Suki no Bhavantu. May all beings be happy and peaceful. Hey everyone, it's Phoenix. I was told in one of my comments that people aren't watching my videos as much because I've been using Zen vibes. I'm not really sure. Curious to hear your thoughts on that one in the comments. So I have been reading some really interesting articles. You start to kind of think you're going crazy with the market bouncing around the way it has been. Stocks are up today, pretty strong. Meta, Tesla, of course, Tesla was down big yesterday. But then you read articles like this one and it kind of puts things in perspective. Market is getting complacent on geopolitical risk. Yes, I would say that's an understatement. And this is from JP Morgan, um, the their strategist, one of their head strategists, saying that the S&P is 2.5x overvalued currently. It seems like there's just this complete disconnect from reality from a lot of retail investors, and that's playing out in the markets right now. And so, because of that, we can expect a higher degree of volatility both in stocks and crypto. Of course, this live is not so much about stocks. One other article I wanted to point out to you, Beware the Ides of March. I was reading this one earlier, and he was talking about everything we can basically expect here summarized in this very short article. Higher rates on the way, higher rates in place till at least the end of 2023, 6 to 12 months of lagged economic impact, already weak economic readings. Okay, it doesn't sound very good, and yet the markets aren't really reflecting that yet. Okay, and then we have some important dates coming up in March. We have government employment ISM today, CPI expected to be negative, PPI retail sales on the 15th, so right around the mid of the month, beware the Ides of March. 322 is the Fed meeting, and they're already talking about being increasingly hawkish, hinting at that in various ways. Okay, so just putting this in context here, what's happened yesterday. We're going to get into the big move with Bitcoin and Ethereum here in a moment, but first, kind of interesting to see the S&P up 1.3% today after about a percent rise yesterday. It gapped up today. But is this a complacency bounce here? Is this sort of a dead cat bounce on the way back down? Or is this actually a healthy uptrend? I mean, you could argue for both right now because the market structure is very clean as of right now. So this could simply be a higher low here on the way up even higher. Okay, it's possible. I don't want to disregard that possibility. Or it could be that we have in fact topped out here, and this is just simply making the next lower high. We'll know better next week. Okay, if it starts to come back down again. Okay, but in the meantime, Bitcoin and Ethereum actually dumped yesterday pretty strong, which is obvious to all of us now. And what happened? Well, we had one single hour candle and it literally wiped out a lot of gains for a lot of longs. Okay, we had 5.38% for Bitcoin, and in 1 hour, I managed to catch this move on Ethereum about mid move because I wasn't sure immediately, about 5.34%. Now, I mentioned on Wednesday, we talked about this, okay? And some of you caught this, some of you didn't, but what were the key areas we were watching, okay? This one here, 1676 for Ethereum. This was a January high, wicked up to it, rejected. This was a short for me, immediate short, okay? Swing fail pattern, shorted this down, took profits, came back up again, shorted it. Well, actually, kind of got screwed around in here a little bit. But then what happened? We saw some very strong 15-minute candles. Okay, and actually, if you drop down to the lower time frames, you'll see these were actually 5-minute candles. 1, 2, boom, boom. This right here was the trigger to go short. Okay, but hesitated a little bit here only because it was coming up against diagonal, and historically it has bounced off that diagonal, but it literally pierced right through it. So I shorted right around here. Okay, so now we're seeing if Ethereum and Bitcoin can come back up and retest. Ethereum is kind of in midair right now. Bitcoin is a little bit clearer, but Ethereum could come back up. Right now, it's just sort of completely sitting still, but it could move very quickly. It could come back up again, retest somewhere up here, somewhere about 1600, 1620, and then break down again. And that would be sort of confirmation that we're headed much lower. Or it could just continue south from here and find support maybe around 1500, stumble around here for a while, and either head back up again, and this proves to be the range is intact, or it starts to break down from here, in which case we're headed toward the January mid, which is around 1430, which coincides with this little ledge of support here. Okay, so that would be a target for a short position for Ethereum. Now, I covered on 75% of my short today because I had a huge size on Ethereum. I wasn't trading any of the other alts. I was in the alts before, but I took profits on those. So I took 75% off the table. I'm just going to let the rest ride. If I get stopped out, it's no big deal. No risk on me. But the main reason that I took profits was because of what I saw happening with stocks today. And I don't know if that's going to transfer over to crypto because it has not been correlated as closely as it has historically, but it could be a delayed or a lagging response. And so there's been a lot of trickery in the markets, more than I've seen in many, many years. And it's not showing any signs of letting up. Now, what I would say, just looking at the overall context of this chart looks like a mess now. But if we just look at the context, I mentioned this to the C3 members the other day. This was not only the largest, it was the largest 1 hour red candle we've seen in this since the new year, okay? Since the beginning of the year. And it was also the largest 4H red candle that we've seen since the beginning of the year. So what does that mean? Well, it's not bullish, right? And it also happened near the top of this range here, okay? So I'm not looking to position into longs here at this point, okay? A lot of people are talking about, well, when ETH hits down 1500, when Bitcoin's 21K, well, we have to revisit that when we get there. But as of right now, what are we seeing here? We saw the deviation outside of this range, got back inside. What happens when we get the deviation back inside? Over under pattern usually comes all the way back down, okay? At least, at minimum, and actually often comes down below that. And if it does get back inside from there, then we're just kind of whipsawing around. So be prepared for that. But I'm still leaning towards more downside. The only thing that's kind of throwing a wrench in that is what's happening with stocks today. So with Bitcoin now, Bitcoin is actually is beneath a critical weekly level right here, which is pretty obvious here, this 22,470 on the index chart here. And it's continuing to come back up and retest and fail. But if it breaks above this with some conviction, then there could be another retest up higher. Just not so sure on that one yet because we've been sitting here for what, like 12 hours now. It could break down further from here. Just getting in, looking on the lower time frames again, and seeing, okay, wait for a big candle and see if there's follow through on that, because that's what we saw here, right? This was a 15-minute candle for Bitcoin. This was a 15-minute candle, and so the 5 and 15 are my best friends right now, okay? This was actually the trigger to go short for Bitcoin when it hit 23. Actually, here, I saw this as it was happening, but here, 23,277, okay, this candle, notice this is what I'm looking for, outliers here, momentum, okay? This is an outlier. Why is it an outlier? Because this candle is bigger than every other candle you see here. It's 2 to 3 or 4 times the size, 5 times the size of most of these candles, okay? It's bigger than every other candle in this entire range, okay? With the exception of this one, which was the initiation of this move down here. So from here to here, we had not very big, okay? And then you see strong momentum pushing down, okay? And then there's follow through on the next candle on the 5-minute chart. So this here would have been an earlier entry than down here. This would have been the close of that 15-minute candle. So it's good in these sorts of situations where you see big movements to really drop down to the lower time frames and see what's happening, okay? And so that's what you want to be looking out for both Bitcoin and Ethereum. So if we see see more movement like that breaking down from this range, that's the good news, is that the longer, I'm getting ahead of myself with my words, the longer that we stay in this range for, the more evident it will be when there is a breakout. If there's some strength to it, if there's some momentum. Of course, it could sit here forever, but this is where you set your alerts and you see, okay, what happens when it hits the bottom? What happens when it hits the top? What kind of a movement is there? And so I'm cautious, but I'm still thinking that we see more downside. It could go either way. There's no way to know for sure. Stocks could completely reverse in the last 20 minutes before the close. And so you have to be prepared for that. And you have to be mentally prepared for that and disciplined as well. And so if you're in short positions, this is not financial advice, but for me, being in short positions, I try my best to be disciplined enough, even though the profits are really juicy. I did take 75% of my ETH short off the table because I wanted the profits, okay? But I'm keeping some of that in there, and I'll add to it if I see that it continues to break down. The reason I do that is because you never know how low it could go. This could be the initiation of the move all the way back down again to the bottom of the range. It could be all the way back down 1100. It could go to 900, could go lower, okay? This could be the start of that, and then you're thinking, wow, I was in it at 1650. And I got out of it. I jumped in and out of it so many times. This is the swing short, or the swing position sort of strategy that you want to have. And so some people have separate accounts for their swing shorts and their sort of scalp shorts. I try and do it on one account because it's just too confusing to switch between. So I hope that this makes sense for you all. I'm gonna actually see if there's even anybody in here. I know that I'm doing this a little live, a little early today. I kind of want to go to the gym and I'm also feeling like we could see a big move while I'm streaming here because it's just a lot of volatility. But honestly, I think you're crazy. I think the markets are crazy to be longing right now. That's my hot take on it. I just think that even the JP Morgan strategists are talking about it. And so if they're talking about it, I'm like, okay, I'm not crazy. It's retail that's crazy. And it's like they want to ignore it because this is the only way that retail knows how to really make money, is to long something and pray that it goes up. Most retail doesn't even have a clue how to short, which is very bizarre to me, but that's just the way it goes. So that's something that we need to keep in mind. So let me clean this up a little bit, and then we'll zoom out like we always do, because that gives the perspective on things. Okay, so Bitcoin on the daily, we were in a range, I said, okay, and many other analysts and traders have said this is a range until proven otherwise. Okay, it hasn't proven otherwise. You can't be bullish. You can't say that the bull market is back on until it breaks above this range with strength. Okay, it didn't do that. Okay, it broke down, and this daily candle is looking pretty ominous. It's not looking in favor. Okay, but with that said, from a daily perspective, it could continue to push back up again. So be prepared for that. Maybe a retest at 23,500. It's possible. Okay, the trickery has reached new levels. Okay, among smart money, and so you have to be. This is a scalper's environment. Unfortunately for us swing traders, this is a scalper's environment, but that doesn't mean that you can't have swing positions that you maintain for many weeks or even potentially a month or longer. Okay, so but just be prepared. And so this is a range. We're headed back down, likely at least to the mid. Okay, likely down to this 21,400 at minimum. Okay, now I am sort of on the side of things, saying that, yes, we're likely to chop around more, could be all over the place, okay? But eventually, I think we're headed back down again. And actually, I think we're going to put in fresh lows this year beneath this 15,700 level. This is an unpopular opinion among many. Those that are on board are those that haven't accumulated spot yet. Personally, I'm not really attached to spot. I can trade forever. I don't need to have a bag of Bitcoin. It doesn't really matter to me. But so I'm not attached. I'm neutral in this. Those that haven't accumulated want to. Those that have don't want it to go back down again. So it's sort of this ongoing this ongoing debate between the two, and it's pretty annoying most of the time because the ego gets involved, and then everybody's just kind of like off the wall with their comments. And of course nobody wants to lose money, so I try to avoid that as much as possible. But I do think Bitcoin's probably going to come back down again, and probably it could come down to 12K still. It could go down even lower. It could go to 10K. Okay, if we have a dramatic geopolitical event, which we seem to be on the verge of. I mean, what's stopping the price of crypto from really crashing? When you see something this is risk on times 2. It's risk on squared. Okay, tech is risk on. Bitcoin, Ethereum is risk on squared. Okay, so if that's the case, and we see these dramatic swings to the upside, then what's keeping it from making as dramatic a swing back down to the downside? Nothing. There's nothing stopping it. And in this sort of a climate where you have so much manipulation, there's just nothing stopping it. And I'm not trying to be a pessimist. I try to be optimistic about life. I'm just being realistic with you and reminding you. And I think that many of you that watch this stream are on board. And to be honest with you, I think the real reason that there's not a lot of people watching my streams is because I'm speaking truth. Where a lot of you look at a lot of the big YouTube accounts, and they get bullish every opportunity they get. Because they know that it leads to more engagement. I don't give a fuck about that. That doesn't matter to me at all. I'm a trader. I'm here to make money. I'm not here to get you to like me, and if for those of you that are watching, I'm here to help others to potentially make money as well. Hopefully a lot of money. And that's my aim. That's why I'm here. So if you don't like the Zen vibes, if you don't like the mantras and the prayers that I send out blessing you, then go somewhere else. It doesn't matter to me. A lot of the alts are starting to break down. Injective, Optimism, 𝐷𝐲 gave me the hardest time. I finally nailed it up here, and I gave all the plans for this twice now. Nailed this one and averaged into this. Ended up just above this range low here as my average, and did take profits along the way. But these aren't gonna, I don't see this coming all the way back up again. I mean, it could, you never know, but look at this candle. Look at this 4H candle for 𝐷𝐲. It just got obliterated, and that it deservingly so, because it was literally bucking the trend for so long, up 10%, up 12%. Is it such a surprise that it's down almost 14% today? And other alts too. I mean, Matic is really, I mean, this looks really clean to me. This doesn't look like something that wants to just shoot back up again. Maybe it comes back up, revisits this level, but it's back inside this larger range after deviating above. Okay. And so like from a swing perspective, I mean, this would have been the entry somewhere in here. Okay. Maybe it bounces again and gives another opportunity for a swing position here and trading it back down again to 101 and maybe ultimately back down 75 cents. Okay. Would that surprise you? If there's an announcement about breakout of war or some other event that happens, some other pandemic that's been planned, who knows? Be prepared for it. Optimism has been actually showing weakness over many weeks, or actually over the last week now. It has not been able to push back up again. We nailed this one too. Of course, I took profits down here and it bounced and then it kept going. Now, what is it doing? Looks very clean at this point. But it's kind of also not as clear as some of the other alts, but likely headed back down. And then if you look, you see this larger range here, which I actually have to zoom out to see this. But yeah, you see this. I mean, once it gets back inside here, it could come all the way back down to $1.35. What's stopping it? What is stopping it from doing that when it just did this? Was this a rational move? No. What was the reason for it? There was no reason for it. It was just it was VCs pumping their bags. Okay. And then retail gets in over somewhere over here. Okay. And up here and up here. Okay. And now that. Okay. Is this rocket science? No, it's not. If you're paying the slightest bit of attention. And so, the whole idea here is to not get wrecked. So Matic is likely headed much lower. The targets I highlighted several weeks ago, okay, for all of these, looking at when they get back inside these ranges, well, you can ultimately, you've got the levels here, 209 for optimism, and then 135, and then potentially all the way back down to 50 cents if it comes back all the way down to, I mean, where was the start of the year for this? We were looking at, this was January 1st, this was 94 cents. So I don't know, it wouldn't surprise me if it just made it a slow, steady decline back down again. Of course, it's not going to look exactly the same as what we saw on the way up. And it looks actually now like Ethereum is showing, Bitcoin and Ethereum are showing some weakness. So maybe we want to hone in on that, because this usually happens while I'm streaming or making a video, as was the case the other day. It could do this for a while. Maybe we see until the close of stocks at 11:30, we start to see another move, or maybe it just sits here and then we've got to sit it out through the weekend. But alts are waiting to see what's going to happen with Bitcoin and Ethereum. Would it be safe to short something like this right now? Well, it depends. I mean, it depends on how this was a massive move here. This candle, it was a 15 or 20% candle. If you take the wicks in here, it was even bigger than that. So wider stops are appropriate for alts like this, because my strategy here is that the lower the market cap, the wider the stop. Why is that? Because there's less liquidity. It's easier to move the price. So when Bitcoin and Ethereum move 5%, something like DYDX can move 15%. It's like 3 to 4 times quicker. Okay. So you don't have the same strategy for an exotic altcoin as you would for Bitcoin and Ethereum. For Bitcoin and Ethereum, I'll do 20x leverage and maybe I had a 1% stop on this move. Okay. So that's why I took profits, because it was still like a 4-hour trade for me. Okay. I had a 1% stop on this. I might do 1, 2, 3% on Bitcoin, Ethereum when I have high conviction. Whereas with a altcoin, I might do 10% in a situation like this. I might do a 10x and have my liquidation level be my stop. So if I know I'm going to risk, say you're going to risk $1,000 or $2,000, then, or whatever it is, $100, then you do 10x on that. Okay. And then it's not going to be a 10% stop though. It's going to be about a 9.5% stop, because you've got to account for that liquidation level. It's not precise. So that's one way to do it. Or you could simply size up and do 10 times the amount and have a proper stop. And that's why it's helpful to use a spreadsheet that either you create or use the one that I created. And you can find that on my website. But that's the strategy for alts. And so actually in this time, I had some swings set up. I probably should have just stayed in those on DYDX, Matic, Optimism, and Injective. I should have the plan was to just throw a little bit in each and leave it, set it and forget it. I did that, but then there was no clarity, and then I took profits, and then we had the big move. And so I just dumped into ETH. So as of right now, I don't even care about what the alts are doing so much. I would just rather focus on Ethereum and size up on that one. And that's my only trade. So, because it's just so much confusion right now, and alts really have been all over the place. And sometimes they're having their sort of swings in the middle of all of this. So like Injective could pump 10% while Optimism is dumping 10%. And that's just not something I want to deal with while I'm trying to figure out, exactly what Ethereum and Bitcoin want to do. But I personally am not interested in taking longs here. It actually looks like we could be on the verge of breaking down. Yeah. Okay. Of course it's happening midstream. Okay, so maybe going to add to this. Let's see what happens here. Ooh, yeah. Let's see what happens here. Very interesting. See, now this is good. This is a good I've never really done this before. Well, I mean I have, but I'm getting used to this live trading thing because see, notice this is where if you're impatient, you don't wait for the candle to close. And notice what just happened. Immediate wick there. Now we can hone in and we can see what's happening. Is this a 5-minute candle? If it is, it might give more strength to it. Okay. Wait for the candle to close because you don't know what's going to happen. Okay. This could completely reverse. This could be just a little fake out. Okay. And then bring it the other way. But be on alert. My alert just went off, and that's bringing my focus. I'm bringing all of my focus now to Ethereum, and Bitcoin is likely it's doing something relatively similar to Ethereum, but it doesn't look like it's breaking down just yet. We shall see. So this candle will close, and then we'll see if, usually it doesn't mean just because there is a rejection wick doesn't mean that there's not going to be a continuation to the downside in the next candle. Okay. But if it's something like we see, very small body, we see a pin bar where the wick is much longer than the body of the candle on a 5-minute at the bottom of a range, then the likelihood of it continuing to the downside is very small. It's most likely that it's just going to bounce at the bottom of the range and head back up again. So the 5-minute candle can tell us a lot here about what's potentially to come for Bitcoin and Ethereum. And we can see that here with these candles, these 5-minute candles, strong, almost Marubozu. Of course, there's a rejection wick, but then it continued and ate that up in the next candle, and then all the way back, all the way down, but then strong rejection wick here. But it wasn't the end. It was just kind of an initial sign that it was maybe going to slow down, and it did. And it found its sort of equilibrium. Actually, the middle of this range was the bottom of this 5-minute candle here. So yeah, notice the rejection wick now. So people started going short here, going to end up getting squeezed possibly. But we're not following the stock market today at all. We're doing the opposite right now. So we will see, might test this a few times before heading back up again, or it might just pierce right through. It seems the most obvious thing right now would be if you're a retailer, you're looking for shorts, right? And so it's almost like a lot of the times, like with the big move that we saw to the upside, if we look and we just look on the 15-minute chart, we can see that there was some consolidation after each little leg up here. And then ultimately there was another breakout candle to the upside. And you can see this 15-minute candle here. There was a sign to continue the long or to add to the long. Okay, there was the signal to long here. Okay, breakout, but then periods of consolidation in between. So this could consolidate for a while. It could happen for a day, it could happen for a few days, and then on Monday we could just have one massive 15-minute candle that blasts through that and creates more upside or downside. But just that's where, when I set alerts, I like to actually have it come every time it crosses. I will have the alert go off. And yeah, see that wick right now, there's only 30 seconds left in this candle in the 15-minute. So that gives more strength to the argument that the downside could temporarily be capped. So kind of maybe ran some of the stops here. We'll see what happens here. Good gains on OP. Yeah, that's good. Happy to hear that. Thank you. I appreciate that, Mr. Starship. Hi, Dejan and Adam. I'm glad that those of you that are tuning in are receiving value uh, from my channel and the content that I'm creating, and yeah, that feels good for me. So it looks like it's not ready to really break down here. It might come back up to 1570, 1573. This is where like scalpers, you can treat this like a range, right? So of course, when you have candles like this, it always throws it off because I'm trying to include the whole thing, but it shrinks it. So here's the bottom of the range. I'm just going to cut this wick off here. That's the top of the range there. So along here would be a little preemptive. I personally, I'm not interested in scalping this. This takes a lot of precision and skill. It's a very tight range and it can move very quickly either way, as we're seeing right now. It is actually breaking down again. So I wouldn't scalp this if it was a bigger range and there was more time to enter. But like in a situation like this, let's just say that it does come back inside and it starts to show strength. Well, it could already be up here before you enter and you're already almost to the mid. So it's not really good as far as like a risk reward perspective. You'd have to have a very tight stop. And so it's not really worth it to scalp that. The tighter the range, the less likely I am to want to trade it. I'm more likely to look for a breakout of the range, either to the upside or the downside. Kind of curious that this is happening, actually. I was expecting more of a bounce with crypto, considering stocks today. Damn, Meta's up 6.5%. Killing me, Meta. Oh, because they lowered the price of a VR headset. I don't get it. Like, I don't understand. Like, it'll probably sell off after hours. It's probably going to we'll see. Yeah, so I have a short on Meta right now. And what is going on, Ethereum? What are you doing? Make up your mind, okay? Will you just make up your mind, please? Bitcoin, what are you doing? Nothing really. It's nothing yet. Yeah, I'd be careful here. I mean, true, like a real confirmation it wouldn't really happen until, for Bitcoin, we're looking at a breakdown below here, this 160, some strength, okay? And so at that point you're getting in somewhere down here, right? But it could happen really quickly, like we saw here. You never know. You never know these days. I mean, these candles, this is the whole strategy of smart money, is to get you when you're not prepared. So like pumping at random times, dumping at random times. I mean, that was pretty random dump yesterday, right? It was kind of like at an odd hour, and there it was. A lot of people were asleep, or, depending on what side of the world you're in. And that's one of the most frustrating aspects of crypto, because the market never sleeps. We don't get a break. There's not set hours for it. And it can be frustrating, because then you take a nap or whatever, and you miss a whole move. And then what's the alternative? You stay up, or you're getting up odd hours of the night and trying to, check the charts or whatever. I don't feel like I can get a full night's sleep ever when I'm in a position and working with the sizes that I do, like last night. Even though I felt pretty strongly that it wasn't going to push back up right away, it still affects your sleep. Knowing that it could do that, could run your stop, in the middle of the night. Whereas with stocks, it's like the market opens and it closes, and it's, Forex same way. It's like there's specific days and hours, but there's pros and cons to both. And also keep in mind, that we're still at a trillion market cap for crypto. Okay. It was 700, it was like a 3/4 of a trillion 2 months ago. Okay. But the total market cap is under $1 trillion. And that's about the stock market, just to give some perspective, is almost 40 trillion. It's almost 40 times. 40 times. So crypto's like a little baby. Okay. Now, this total crypto cap, I pointed this out yesterday. What happened? What happened? It broke down from this diagonal. Now, I'm not going to say that that's it, okay? Because it's a diagonal. It's not going to give you everything, but it's something, and it's showing it broke down from the top of this range, near the top of this range here. And now we have the breakdown from this diagonal initially. Maybe it comes back and retests it and then starts to push down and put in newer, fresh lows here, okay? It's possible, but that's just something we want to be paying close attention to. Okay, so so far, nothing really happening here. Nothing looks like now it's trying to push back up again. Maybe it does something like what we saw here. And yeah. Crypto, man, I tell you, you really develops your emotional discipline, your discipline in general. You've got to be cold-blooded in these kinds of conditions. You have to be cold-blooded. Some days I take huge losses, some days I make insane gains, and be equal in all of it, because that's the only way you're going to survive. Mentally, physically, your health, it affects your health. You've got to be on point. And that's why I meditate every day. And that's why I work out at the gym every day, or not every day, but as much as I can. I do yoga, I surf, all of these things. If I didn't have meditation, I could not trade. And most people, I tell my kids, don't become a trader. Do not become a trader, because it's not easy. You can make a lot of money. Yes, you can definitely make a lot of money if you know what you're doing and you're very precise and you have a strategy and you stick to that strategy and you don't waver and you don't get phased and you start to see money differently. Like, okay, 5,000, 10,000 bucks. It's here one day, it's gone the next, whatever, 100,000 bucks. It's just money. It's numbers on a screen. As long as I'm making money. Now look at what's happening with Ethereum right now. As long as I'm making money in the long term, and it might take a few weeks, I might have to hold on to this meta short a little bit longer for it to actually get back into profit again. As long as I'm making money, yeah, look, fake out, boom. Okay, so now that's why you hone in on these lower. Now you could long this. I don't care about this. I'm not going to long this. I'm going for a bigger move. So you could long this and it could come all the way back up to 1576. Let's see what happens. But that would be my guess here based on this price action, depending on how this candle closes. Okay, now those that are like really scalpers, they'll get in on even like the 1 minute or the 3 minute. And that's just, to me, that's just too much. I don't care about that. But if it gets back inside and holds back inside, there's your trigger. There's your trigger. And it's probably headed back up higher. So, I post things on Twitter. I posted the other day about what, this Swenson guy is talking about scenarios for Bitcoin. I was like, well, scenario 3 is that it doesn't bounce. And this is the move that it makes. Someone says you're a LARP until you show your position. Like, what the fuck? Like, what, honestly, what is like crypto Twitter come to? It's changed so much in just the last year. It's like, I'm like constantly feel like you're like, well, what? I'm supposed to prove myself as a trader? Like, have I not done that with all of the content that I've been putting out consistently and like all the trades that I've been giving away? I don't know. It's so weird. It's so bizarre, but people don't pay attention. And then you post things about movements, market movements that you're anticipating. And people are like, the long-term investors are like, they've got their whole mindset of like time in the market beats timing the market. It's like, yeah, if you're Warren Buffett, If you're a trader, it just makes absolutely no sense. Like, what do you, that's a foreign language to me. Like, I'm trading levels, I'm trading ranges, I'm trading breakouts. Like, I'm not interested in like DCAing into Bitcoin. Like, I don't care. Like, you can DCA all you want. That's not what I'm here for. And so it's like all these different people speaking different languages, and there's very few actual active traders in crypto right now. I mean, we think about, we're all huddled in these live streams. It's like there's not many of us. So yeah, look, I mean, it's just another, like, it could do this for a couple of hours. Who knows? Could do the same thing we saw here. No follow through. Even though we got the close back inside, now you're looking, if you're scalping, this is all I have to work with right now. But if you're scalping, you're looking to see, okay, maybe we get a little bit of a pattern that develops on the lower time frame here on the 1 minute. Maybe it starts to chop around. Okay. And then we've got like a swing high, and then it breaks it. There's your entry. Okay. That's what you're looking for in this sort of a situation. And the reason that I'm showing this is because this is basically, once you understand how to do this on a lower time frame, you can do it on any time frame. You can do this on a higher time frame. This is how I swing trade with stocks. This is how I take positions for over weeks and months. And this is what so few people really have the patience to learn how to do. But if you know how to do this, then you can invest. I can trade any chart. I can invest, and I can tell you if a chart's worth trading, or if it's in a place where I'm interested in trading it. But few people are doing the work. So here we are, just kind of like whipsawing around in this gray area. Let's see what Bitcoin is doing. We haven't really defined the range for Bitcoin yet, but let's just do that. It's a little bit off because of this, but the bulk of they call it a value area. The value area would be, I would call that the value area. And I'm actually going to just shade this differently because this is when I get into the lower time frames, I like to use this color because it distinguishes it for me. So, and actually that's actually, I would probably go a little bit higher on this. See, this isn't really worth trading in here. We're waiting to see if it breaks down or breaks out. A long is a possibility if it's a scalp long. For me, like if I'm in a long this, I'm going to do a scalp, and as soon as it loses momentum, I'm out. And that's it. Or I've cut 50% and I'm stops or break even. And that's how I ensure profits. And then if it completely reverses and goes the other way, then I'm short. Okay. So let's just say that it does something like this, where it comes up, blasts through here, have a 15 minute candle with some momentum here. Okay. There's your trigger. You go long, and then it does this, and then it starts doing this. Okay. I'm 50% out here. And then maybe it starts careening back down. Then I'm completely out here. Maybe it just kind of gradually comes down. Then I just let it stop me out. It stops me out. I still got 50% profits in this. Stopped at break even. Then it comes back down, and then it crashes through here. Okay. And this was a complete fake out. I'm short. Okay. I can play this. I can follow. I can be the barnacle. I can follow the whales. I know what they're doing. It's just a matter of, are you patient enough to wait for that to actually happen? Okay. Most people, they get in too soon or too late. This is the problem. You've got to time it properly. And in order to time your entries properly, you have to be attentive. You have to be 100% attentive. It doesn't mean that I have to sit here and stare at a chart all day. No, far from it. But I know the levels where I'm going to do business. And so I will wait until it comes to the levels, and then it hits that level, and then I'm paying attention. So right here, I'm paying attention, and I'll set my levels, I'll set my alerts so that maybe it's a little before that level. Okay. So in the case of Bitcoin, I'm going to set an alert right here. Okay. I want to see when it gets below this wick here, and I want to see if there's some strength in that move, okay, when it happens. And I'm gonna have it every time. That's the alert I'm setting. And then above it, we're looking at up here, okay? Could wait till the close to do this. But I'm not gonna sit here all day and watch this. I don't need to. Okay, as of right now, it's a big nothing sandwich. So, yeah, I mean, probably just going to chop around and head back up to the top of the range. And then I think maybe around 11:30. Well, that's my time. I don't know what time it is for you, but maybe around close or half hour after close, we'll see some more movement. But if we don't get a big move by, a few hours after close, who knows, right? Who knows with this price action? There's no way to know. It could happen at any time. Be prepared. Always be prepared. It's like Boy Scout motto. I was a Boy Scout for not for like my entire youth, but for some of my youth. Now, look, I mean, yeah, there's no clarity on this when you see this. This is kind of like, if we zoom into this, what is this? This is like FOMC, right? Like it goes up, it goes down. It's not worth trading, right? I mean, you might catch the move up for a little while and then it might round trip on you. You might just guess it completely wrong. It's a gamble. It's like a scratch lotto ticket. And most people are just playing around. They're gambling in the value areas, and this is not where we want to do business, okay? Down here is where we want to do business, assuming that we have some momentum, assuming that we have some strength behind the move. People ask me, do you use volume when you trade? No, not really. I don't need to. I don't need to. I know when there's high volume. I mean, look at the candles, okay? The candles will tell you everything that you need to know. The price action will tell you everything that you need to know. You don't need all the fancy indicators. The indicators are just kind of confirming what you're already seeing in the chart. It's like people who need more, it's like you need more reassurance. But you don't need that when you become more of a seasoned trader. You don't need that. You rely on what you're seeing in the chart, and it's all revealed to you. And I think actually starting out, it can be a distraction to focus on various indicators like RSI or the stock or whatever it is, the MACD. Or looking for, moving average, or divergences. Moving averages can be helpful in trending markets, but it's not helpful in a range bound environment. Not at all. It's moving averages can be helpful in certain situations, or they can give you the overall context, right? Like if we're looking on a weekly chart and we're looking for to see what's the trend, what's the overall trend here. I'm looking at the 12 and 21. Well, it's been down and we're above it now, but every time it gets above here in the bear market, eventually it comes back below again. So that gives us a little bit of context until it doesn't get back below. And then we know that we're headed back into a bull market. Okay. So if it holds above these EMAs, 1500, and continues to head north, then we have to reevaluate everything, because that's what the EMAs are telling us. And that's the same as the case in 2019, okay, when it finally held above. Well, I mean, it was kind of, it was above and below still, even after breaking out from but then we have conviction here really entering in after COVID, holding above here and holding as support on the weekly, holding as support. And then you see big, massive weekly red candle, warning sign, okay? Starting to get below, but still kind of coming back above again. So the higher it is above these EMAs, the stronger the trend. In an uptrend, this is more valuable than in a range-bound environment. Okay, that's the point with all this. And I'm just buying time right now while we wait and see what Bitcoin's going to actually do, or Bitcoin, Ethereum are going to do. Are you guys getting any value from this? Give me some comments or likes or something so that I know, because otherwise I feel like I'm just talking to myself. I think that this is going to be helpful for those of you that watch this video later on. Total market cap's down almost 4.5% today so far. Ethereum is not showing a lot of strength here. I mean, you could say that this is a potential rejection of the range lows, retest and rejection. This is what I call a sumo. Shot up, miffed off, shot back up and miffed off here. Okay, possibly continues to the downside, possibly. But if it's just choppy like this, then there's no trade. If it's just choppy, because at any time it could do this, you know, it could take, just like we see with bottom formations, you start to study these patterns and you start to see them play out more and more. Bottom formations, we could see this on any time frame, but we're on the 5-minute. Let's look on a 15-minute time frame. You know, here we had another little range for Bitcoin, or sorry, for Ethereum. Okay, we had another range here, and it looked like, wow, there's some strength here, but it kind of chopped around on its way down and then got back up, got back inside, okay, and then pushed back even higher. What do you know? Not any real momentum here. Whereas here, there was a lot of momentum. There's a lot of momentum here. So what is the max pain scenario in this instance where we are right now with Bitcoin, Ethereum? I hate to say it, but it could be similar, okay? Could be what we just saw, what I just showed you. Could do something like this where it kind of chops around, slowly makes its way down, hits this, let's see, is there a level? Well, I mean, it could come all the way down to 1500, back down to the bottom of the range. But it could actually just chop around here and then come back up, back inside, and then pushes even higher, retests up here, this diagonal level here, okay? Be prepared for these types of situations, these scenarios. It's not clear cut. It's not going to be cut and dry. These are liquidity games. They're playing with the retailers that are left right now. They're testing to see how much money they can extract. And I'm talking about whales. Okay. So you've got to get in their mindset as much as possible. And so it's got to be as confusing as possible, because the traders that are in this that are still in this, most of them are the smarter ones. Okay. So, like myself and yourself for tuning in and watching this stream. So you just have to be ready. It is easier to trade in a bull market. It's much easier because every pullback, you're simply longing it, okay? And sitting back and watching, okay? Right now, range-bound environments they take more precision, you know? So some traders, they just will sit out the entire accumulation and distribution, you know? Market makers, some of the big hedge funds, whatever, they're buying during accumulation and distribution and sitting it out during markup and decline. So we're definitely, I think there's a very high probability. I mean, we're definitely in accumulation at this point. We're in accumulation. And if this is accumulation, then where are we in the range? Wyckoff schematics. I mean, at least a lot of my friends are talking about this. It makes perfect sense to me. This is the automatic reaction. This is the seller's capitulation here. Secondary tests here. Springs can happen, and a spring comes down below the secondary test. It comes down even lower, and then it pushes back up again. Okay, but this is the beginning of accumulation. This is the beginning of accumulation. That's what I'm calling it now. It's pretty certain for me, especially now after coming back down again inside this range. If we put in new lows and we spring off quickly and we see higher volume and we see more momentum, then we know that we're getting closer to the end. Okay. But there's nothing stopping, even though this is accumulation can end if we really break down below the range. If there is a COVID-like event that happens, it could continue. okay, could continue all the way down to, I'm on the daily, but this, so that's funny because this, yeah, so it could continue all the way down. Well, we're in the negative now. It could continue down to 10 or 12K. You never know. So be prepared. If it breaks down from this range, in this part of the range here, and then we're looking at possibly another decline. It's possible that there could be decline, accumulation, decline. It's not likely, but it's possible. And that decline could last from a few days to a few weeks. So it's also possible that we just come back up again. Okay. So right now, nothing happening. I'm going to probably end this stream here. Yeah, actually, I don't know. We'll see. This is kind of, oh, good. I'm glad you got into DYDX. Yeah, I got stuck. I got that one. I was too early on that trade. That was an amateur move on my part. Of course, I'm always too hard on myself, as all of us are. And that's another thing as a trader. Don't beat yourself up. Learn how to speak to yourself in a way that if you have to get in front of the mirror every day and, and give yourself some love, like it's not cheesy, it's not hippie, like just do it. Because when you start getting down on yourself, then you think, I'm no good at this. I'm not meant to trade. This sucks. Like, this is hard. Yeah, it's hard. There's a lot at stake, and most people aren't willing to do it, and they'll jeer at you and they'll call you a LARP and all these things. Like, even for me, I get it. And I'm like, but that's the thing is most people are not willing to take the risk and they don't receive the rewards. So like as a trader, I can tell you that like you can have one single day, you can have one single trade that makes up for months of losses. One single trade. You can do that, and always think like that. Like, don't even acknowledge the loss in your mind. Like, don't be in denial, but it's just, when I say don't acknowledge the loss, I say, think of it in terms of like this, I could make all this back in the next trade. That's the mindset you have to have as a trader. And don't be overconfident, and continue to stay humble and think, use the strategies and have discipline, but always have that reference, that framework of like DYDX nailed me twice and I nailed it once and it made up for it. Okay. And of course I could be more in profit on that, but that we knew it was around the corner. We knew, I said, it's going to smack its face on the ground. It's only a matter of when it's going to happen. It's going to happen soon. And it did. And 15%, a single candle. Okay. So that happens. And that's what happens. Like the child throwing the temper tantrum, the more feverish they get in their temper, the harder they're going to crash. And when they crash, they're going to be out like a light. They're not going to give you any problems. And that's it. Good night. So DYDX, perfect example of that. Exotic alt, completely irrational, pumping like mad because some whale decided they wanted to push it back up here to extract as much money as possible. Of course. Why would I short it at the mid? It was breaking above the mid. Of course they're going to push it back up here. I mean, look at that. This could not have been, this is really obvious, right? This is really obvious that when it was showing so much strength down lower and it was obeying this channel here, this was not the place to be shorting DYDX. Okay. This was foolish on my part, but it's okay because I nailed it here. Okay. So you make up for it. And now it ain't coming back, folks. I mean, good luck. You never know. And it's frustrating as hell. And if you're just starting out as a trader, forget this. Like, forget about it. Don't even pretend like it doesn't even exist. Okay. Because that's where most traders, they think, well, but that one moved 15%. Great. Well, size up more on Bitcoin and Ethereum. You do better because you won't have, I'll have days where I'm in alt shorts and I'm in an Ethereum short. Ethereum's not doing anything. And then, Optimism or Matic is just pumping like a madman. And that's the nature of the game. And so Like if it frees up mental bandwidth, like for me right now, I'm just like, look, I don't care about the alts anymore. I'm tired of the alts. I made some money. I lost some money. I've been doing better with Bitcoin, Ethereum. And so I'm just going to focus on ETH. And like, that's it. That's all I care about. I'll just trade that and I'll size up on that. And and I'll set my alerts on that. And I'm not having to track. Notice what happens when you have more positions open and you're constantly, you're having to track. Like you have to go from one chart to the next. Like as it is, I have, 4 stock shorts open right now. And they're doing horrible today. Gave back a lot of my gains today, but we'll see. I think that they're probably going to head south again. But yeah, I already have 4 stock shorts open. And the other day I had maybe 5, 6 alts that I was shorting. And it just, after a while, just waiting, and it just really wears on you. And it's better, and then yesterday I just took profits and I just focused on ETH, and I feel a lot better because I don't really, I'm not feeling the FOMO of like, you can have FOMO on the way up, but you can also have FOMO on the way down thinking, I want to catch the top. I want to catch the top. I don't care because they're going to chop around no matter what. I don't really care. Like if you catch a good move, that's all that matters. That's the focus. And it's not about ego, and it's not about posting your gains on Twitter. Some of the bigger accounts on Twitter, they just, I swear it's like their life's mission to prove, they've got something to prove to the world, and they do it by, posting their wins on altcoins, and it's like, I could care less. It doesn't matter to me. Again, are you here to make money? or are you here to prove something to someone else who is some anonymous person hiding behind a JPEG? Like, that's it. Like, I'm here to make money, and like I make that crystal clear. And the crypto Twitter is a distraction. Altcoins are a distraction. Everything, everything that's not focusing on pure price action is a distraction. All the indicators are a distraction. Like sometimes they're helpful. Okay. So I have indicators here. I have EMAs. I have monthly and weekly opens. I have Bollinger Bands. I look at them sometimes. Like, yeah. Well, obviously on the 4H, it's going to come outside the Bollinger Bands after a move like this. I could have told you without looking at this that it was going to be here relative to the Bollinger Bands. And now where are we? Back to the mean. Well, that makes sense. That makes sense because the price slowed down. Okay. And now it's back at the mean. But so it's not really necessary. Daily pivots, they can be helpful. Here's an interesting one. We're just beneath it right here. Okay. But in a non-trending environment, in a range-bound environment, is this going to be helpful? Not really. No, because what is this? Just like EMAs, it's not helpful. So, it's very simple. You find the strategy that works for you, and you be disciplined enough to focus on that. Give all your energy and attention to that. Set your alerts. Know when you're going to do business. Maybe you only take 4 or 5 trades a month, and maybe those trades, you're averaging a 3 to 5 R. Okay. Even if you lose on a majority of those trades, you're still a winner. Isn't that something? If you have to cut half the trades near break even or slight loss, and you've got a 3 to 5 R on average, like what I just did. My entry on Ethereum was up here. Okay. But my stop was here. It was a 1.25% stop. Okay. So, and then I took profits on 75% of it here. Okay. So, ideally it'd be at least a 3R for me, but it's a 2R so far on that trade. And I sized up on this. So it doesn't take much. It's just that you have to, most of the time, I think we have to just stay out of the trade. Most of the time, it's just a choppy, senseless environment to be trading in. And you have to know there's very specific things that, I'm looking for. Like this was a no-brainer trade for me. This is a swing fail at a critical January highs. Okay. Got back inside. And if you look at this on the 1H, doesn't really give me much. On the 15-minute chart though, There was the rejection, bearish, not quite bearish engulfing, but bearish candle afterwards. Okay, there's a short trigger for me because it swung above these highs. Okay, and then got back inside, closed back inside. There's a short trigger. You could have sized up on this and done really, really well. I had a decent size on this. Okay, and then stops to break even as soon as it got back down here. Take some profits, let the rest ride. Actually, if I'd have just held on to this short, I would have done a lot better. So that's another thing. Okay, this is kind of like a little masterclass here for those of you that are actually still paying attention, is always letting some of it ride. That's why I have 25% of it. And I'm just going to let it ride, because in this case, I entered at 1661 and I took profits like down here, snatched my profits, could have just kept some in the damn trade and I'd still be riding this trade. Okay. And this was a big size. Okay. So if I'd have just held on to this, I'd be up 6% right now. And that would have been, the stop was up here, right? That would have been a 6R trade. Just that. That's all it took. Never came back up to retest that. And a lot of the times we think, well, it's got so much momentum here. Look, it looks like it's going to come back up again, all the way back up to here, but it didn't. And you never really know when it's going to peter out here, when it's going to lose its steam and come back down. So I think this is something that people don't really talk about enough. Like, you know, how often are you stopped out in a trade or part of your trade? Like, a lot of the times we just take profits, and we take profits way too soon. Maybe I took profits too soon on this because it's not showing any strength right now, but I still have some skin in the game. I still have some of this trade that's open in the event that it just craters to 1200. Because then if you're out of the trade, then you're kicking yourself because you got the perfect entry and you're thinking, this would have been so much money. Whereas even if you just have 25% still in the trade, no matter what, until you get stopped out, you know, and it doesn't have to be a break even stop, but it's just like at this point, if you entered here, at this point, if you entered at 1660, well, you could reasonably put your stop even up here or even over here, right? Above this diagonal. I would probably move it to like 1614, right? And you still, on that 25% that's still in it, you still got a 3R on that. So that was foolish on my part. I should have just stayed in the trade. I should have just stayed partially in the trade. So this is one of my disciplines that I'm sticking to now. Even though it's juicy, it's like, well, it's thousands of dollars that I could lose if I'm stopped out here. But still, it's that much more that you could lose, you know, if you get out of the trade too soon, because this could go down twice, 2 to 3 times as much as it is now. And maybe that only happens 1 out of 3 times, but even then it would still be worth it, wouldn't it? But this is sort of the logic of having these sort of swing positions. And maybe you take a scalp and you're expecting to take profits at the bottom of the range, and then but then it continues to go down again. And that's why you just never know what it's going to do. You never know when it's ready to really break down. Yeah, most of the time, just stay out of the trade. The value area, this is like study value areas, because a value area is just basically where most of the price action is happening. And that's like you know, like being a retail shopper at the store. Like, you think you're getting a deal, but you're not actually, because the grocery store is getting it even cheaper. Okay, so they get the wholesale prices. If you want the wholesale prices, you've got to get it at the extremes. You've got to get it as it's breaking above or below the extremes, or at the extremes when it's rejecting. And those are the only 2 areas where you want to be interested in trading. So this level is not really of interest here. But if it starts to break down with conviction, then it's, you know, then that could be a great entry. Okay. But as long as it's chopping around in here, there's just nothing to go off of. Okay. And so on this 15-minute, it's still not really clear what Ethereum wants to do. it looks to me like it wants to head back up again. It looks to me like it wants to head back up again. If we look on the 5-minute, still not really clear, but this could be a bottom, but then you just never know. So yeah, if this was a broader range, if this was like, if we're looking on a 4H or a daily chart and it was a broader range and it sort of hovered here for a while, and then we have some closes back inside and not really any wicks and some strength, and then it holds, then there's your long trigger, because then you've got a deviation here, and then it could come up even higher, could actually break through from there. But waiting until that happens, instead of trying to anticipate that, not reacting, responding. And that's like my mantra as a trader, is like, don't react. Stocks are freaking out. Okay, crypto's not doing anything. Like, took some off, probably a little more than I should have, but don't react. Don't overreact. Just like chill out. They say that women are better traders than men. I don't know about that. Like, maybe. I don't know a lot of female traders, but are women able to keep their emotions out of life easier than men? I don't think so. I mean, it's what makes it different with dealing with money. Maybe women just aren't as attached to money. Maybe they don't feel as much emotion around it. It's possible. But yeah, you've got it. Why are more men attracted to trading than women? Probably because they have better control over their emotions. I don't know. I mean, the few women that are able to do it successfully, they're probably the most cold-blooded of them all, because there are so few women traders out there. So I'm going to end this stream now. I was just kind of rambling for a while, waiting to see what Ethereum was going to do, but I just really want to go to the gym. And yeah, look at this. I just really want to go to the gym, and I am hoping that we get some resolution here, either to the upside or the downside, but it could be a choppy weekend, realistically. You never know. Just be prepared. And yeah, I hope that you all enjoyed this stream. Have a beautiful rest of your day. And yes, I'm going to continue to be Zen Vibes, like it or not.